Oh, doesn't it feel good to be back? Here we are, CrowCast Tuesday Night Live, back on the old Spreaker. And without further ado, because we've got a massive show, over to you, Peter J.
Thanks very much, Fane. Great to have everybody aboard tonight for another Tuesday Night Live edition of the AFL CrowCast. Great to have you all along with us. We're joined tonight, of course, by none other than Macca himself and the Donk Magoon. How are you tonight, chaps?
Yes, fighting fit and ready to go.
Going well after nearly being blown away on the weekend.
Yeah, very, very good. And, of course, Fane there working all the buttons and doing all the tech stuff that he does so well. Good on you, mate. All right, without further ado, we'll get into talking a little bit of AFL news from around the traps. Is there anybody that wants to kick that away?
Well, there's a few things happening at the moment because we've got righty-ho. And now, what I was saying about, so a few things happening. The AFL have released our schedule for the year. And I think we haven't fared too badly in the sense of what we've been given.
Isn't the fixture released like late last year?
It's the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, I think Pete might be right here, Macca.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry about that. It was the first time I've caught up, and I thought the actual schedule of it, and I thought we were treated very well.
I'm certainly still waiting for the SNFL Juniors Under 10 fixture that hasn't been released as yet, but I reckon the AFL one, Macca, is out with. It's out and about.
Well, I've been caught out on that one, but Brad Crouch's body, but it suddenly just happened again. He snapped like a rubber band again. He's built like a brick shithouse, but unfortunately his record smells like one in terms of fitness, and he's out for another 7 or 8 weeks. And we all love Brad. He's no good to us while he's not playing. So that's unfortunately, but I think the big news from the Crows' point of view is the 2 young boys going in to play the first game, and Fogarty in particular, a first game player in his first season, and
he won't play.
Fogarty?
Yeah.
The coach says he will.
Might be emergency.
I bet he'll play.
Pike came out and they've handed both Fogarty and G-Day their debut, so
Jesus.
They will be in the 22 on Friday night.
Yes, they will.
Well, colour me corrected. Bradley Crouch, didn't I put the mockers on him about a month ago?
Well, I think I joined you in that.
Good to see Brad get through a pre-season, I think I said. Donkey, shut your kids up.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
The noise going on there, mate.
You know, the question I was going to raise is, who is our last draftee that played the first game of the season in his first year?
Wayne Malera.
Yeah, that's probably the one.
Did he play it?
Yeah, he did.
And before Wayne?
Is it Ben Hart? Well, I reckon Benny Hart did, didn't he?
I don't know, but I think it goes right back to either McLeod or Benny Hart or one of those. I think it goes back that far, I think.
Yeah. We've had 2, I think we've had 2 blokes debut in round 1 every year since Pocky's been on board. So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
We had McGovern and Malera a couple of years ago. Then we had maybe not properly the Boos, but we put on Menzel and Hampton last year, and then these girls this year. So I'm excited.
And the other thing, sorry.
I was going to say, I'm not convinced. I'm with Vardy in the chat. I'm not convinced Fogarty can play out a game, can he?
Well, I think he can.
Fast deck, Eddie Haddie's going to be run off his legs unless they sit him in the bloody goal square.
Well, I think that's what they will do. I think that what they'll do is that he'll actually hang around the goal square, and they might make that lazy fat ass Jenkins get off his ass and run around the ground a little bit.
Yeah, well, that won't work too well. What about poor old Harry Deer? Is that the end for Harry Deer, you reckon?
Well, listening to Pikey tonight, I thought he was a little bit harsh. I thought Harry Deer was pretty good at the pre-season stuff, but he said no, he's not in quite good enough form at the Harry Deer, and he said he'll get his chances later on down the track when he hits a bit of form.
Jesus, yeah, maybe for Hawthorn.
Yeah, I reckon I think Deer's game was probably built up a little bit by the fact that Brereton was commentating and made a massive fuss about him. At the end of the day, he took a mark, he kicked a goal, and he had a few other touches, but he didn't do. I wasn't as excited about his game as what a lot of others were, and I've been really hoping that Harry Deer would come on. Why wouldn't you? Because he's a big bloke and he's fast and he kicks accurately and he's got all the tools. But I don't know. I think this is, and I think we talked about this earlier, Fiend. I think this is a pretty huge year for Harry Deer because I just get the feeling that if he doesn't make a mark this year, then by the time we get to next, I think that players like Himmelberg, Fogarty obviously will be going past him and he will have lost his chance, I think.
Yeah, I reckon you're right, mate.
Pete is right. He mentioned Himmelberg, and he's worthy of a mention because he's a very talented young lad. And what you see when you watch him is a lad that's still very green in terms of his football career, but I think he's going to develop into quite a nice footballer.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's got. He looks to have more upside than Deer. I've always been a big fan of Harry, but it doesn't look like it with the Crows anyway. I reckon he'll get a chance somewhere in the AFL because he's a big lad and he's competitive. But I don't think he's got the coach's favour in Adelaide.
Another bit of thing that's happening at the moment is Luke Beveridge, of course, my favourite man, Pig's Arse. He's out there calling people liars again. He's a professional whiner and whinger, that bloke. Sports Day news writer called Tom Morris, and he wrote that at the end of the trade, during the trade period, that Luke Dowhouse, Libber, and Clay Smith were all offered up for trade, and Luke Beveridge is calling him a liar, straight out liar, and but the point is he wasn't actually present in any of the trade negotiations, so he wouldn't actually know. But he's saying that wouldn't have happened. He's a bloody liar. Anyhow, Caroline Wilson's come out and supported the guy and said it's true. So
these guys don't usually come out without some sort of source, and it's bad timing for Beveridge because he wants team unity. But by the same token, if the bloke's going to go with it, then silence is golden. But Luke doesn't know that rule.
No, he doesn't, because what he's done, he's called the guy a liar, and the guy is fired back and said, I'm not lying, I'm telling the truth. And Caroline Wilson's backing him up. So really, Beveridge has put himself in a bit of a corner, as usual, with his great big bloody mouth. He just doesn't know how to keep it shut.
Yep.
Just a bit of positive news. I as we were talking about Elliot Himmelberg, I was reminded that it was announced today that he signed a fresh 2-year deal with the Crows. So I think that was a great signing for us, and I reckon they've given him another 2 years just to continue developing into that monster 200-centimetre body. And I would think that 2020 we would be looking at some strong contribution from Elliot.
Yeah, if I remember rightly, I think we supported him through a couple of issues. Was it him or was it the other young lad, Ben Davis? I think it was Himmelberg. I think we supported him through a couple of issues in his first season, and it probably set him back a little bit in his development. Some of the things that nothing sinister, but I think there's just one or two things going on. So I'd expect him to push through even as early as next season, Pete.
I reckon you might be talking about Davis. I'm pretty sure Himmelberg's squeaky clean. He did have an injury last year. He kicked. I think he missed the first couple of SNFL games, and then he had something like, I reckon it was about 19 goals from his first 13 games, and before he had a foot injury that put him away for the remainder of the season. And so he was probably our most potent forward for the time that he was playing.
Yeah.
I think Pete's right. I think it was Davis.
Davis? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I just reckon Elliot will need, because he didn't get a full season of SNFL last year, but he showed a lot of talent potential in the year that he did play. He's very raw. It's his first year last year, so I reckon we'll need another year or two, certainly this year, to get a full SNFL season. Then you'd hope that in 2019 he'd play some JLT or whoever the hell's sponsoring those games, and then move on from there. But anyway, great signing, 2 years for Elliot. It was good news.
So what do we think about the AFLW? And just before we hook into that for a second, I'd just like to Just remind those who may not have been listening in previously, we did have an AFL weekly show on Wednesdays. Unfortunately, because Scorpus has had to retire or just step down for a while from the CrowCast, we don't have the manpower for the Wednesday show, so we will shift a little bit of AFL talk here, and obviously the women's season held up here, and also unfortunately our Thursday night show is going to have to drop off because I simply can't do 3 shows a week. I've got too many other commitments and probably a relationship that would suffer if I kept doing this all week. So yeah, we do apologise to those listeners who enjoyed the Thursday night show, but we'll push on here regardless. Anyway, what did we think? It was a pretty insipid second half once we lost a couple of players on the weekend.
Yep. Did you watch it, Doggy?
Yeah, and I was actually in the middle of some Bunnings trips. Just to digress for a second, we had a bit of a cyclone up here on the weekend, Macca. So I spent the rest of my weekend clearing out about 4 tons of palm fronds. So I spent my time between Bunnings and wandering around listening to the radio. But just from the chat, it really sounded like the wind went out of our sails as soon as Randall was off and Phillips came up lame. And
perfect
we
summary.
just went over and cut back through. So.
Yeah, look, the team doesn't have a lot of depth. It's got 2 outright stars in Phillips and Randall, and one, as you say, one was lame, and the other one was dominating in the first half and actually keeping us not only in the game but keeping us slightly ahead. But once she was gone after half time, there was no depth to cover that situation at all. And I'm not suggesting you'd have another Randall in the side, but I think, unfortunately for the women's team, and I think that's been acknowledged by the coach, we do taper away quite badly in our last few players at the bottom of the 22.
I think all teams are like that, Macca. I reckon we saw that with Melbourne too.
Yes, it's actually true.
Yeah, I reckon most, and it probably goes to the depth of the competition as a whole. That even with the notwithstanding, we've got more teams coming in next year. I think they might have gone too early with that because I think most teams in the competition do fall away after their best half a dozen, and it only takes 1 or 2 injuries, and that has a real impact.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very accurate summary. And what we'll see with the women's competition is that every year that we watch it, it will slightly improve. And because what we're going to have is more and more young girls playing the game, and they're going to be coached better and better, and their skills will develop at a much younger age. And ultimately, it'll be a very, very good standard competition. But at the moment, it's if you really want to be very honest about it and compare it to where does it stand, or if you compare it to SANFL, SANFL reserves, you're really talking about, I reckon, about almost A5 at amateur league, in terms of what its real standard is. At best.
Yeah. But look, it is what it is, and the girls did well to come back from a slow start to the season to actually make the grand final. Yeah.
I think as a general proposition, though, we really need to move past on comparing it to what level it is at because you can't. It's not comparable. It's just a different game.
They wasn't putting it down.
No. I know you weren't. Trying to put it down, mate. And I'm not saying you were, but I just think that I don't think there's much utility in trying to compare it to try and find a level within the men's game that it sits, because it's just so the times that I've seen it, it's just such a fundamentally different game. Does that make sense? I just think that I don't see there's much utility there. But anyway, that's just.
But I think it's one that will increase in its quality year by year, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree, Macca. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I'll just to speak to the just a bit about we're a 2-person team, and I think that sort of undersells what Phillips and Randall are in a way. They're just they're actually just a cut above in their disposal and their ability to win the ball. I mean, Phillips is a gold medalist and NBA, WNBA championship player. Like, she's a professional athlete and has been for a long time, and you can just tell that the other guys, the other players in the team are just, and this is across the rest of the competition. It was actually quite a grind most of those games and a slog, and those guys are the ones that will just capitalise on those opportunities. And when you have those two guys go down, there's not much you can do. So probably rehashing what we already said, but I just feel like saying it again.
No, I agree with that.
Shall we move on to the big game on Friday night? Any intro music there, Fiend, or not yet? You want to talk about something else?
No. Come on, mate. We've got competitions next.
You got competitions next? Okay.
Yeah, and we've got intro music.
You got intro music? Go on then. Let's go.
On, bloody host. Call yourself a host.
No.
All the bells and whistles are on now, Pete.
You like that?
The problem is, I'm just not used to being on air anymore. We are on, aren't we?
You didn't actually have to point that out, Pete. But anyway.
Are you going to play the intro music, mate? That sounded like your morning run music.
That's where I got it from, the same playlist.
Let's crack on with the competition thing.
All right. Well, look.
Fantasy and tipping and all those good things.
Yeah, first of all, we got our Dream Team competition. We've got 4 slots left, haven't we, Donkey? 14 of 18. Yep, and I even did my team this afternoon, so look out.
Fantastic. So if you're listening online, guys, we might try and put the links up in, I don't know if we can post them to Spreaker, but we'll put the links up on the CrowCast Facebook page again tonight.
We will. We'll put it, there'll be a link to this show that you can listen to on demand, and I'll put the links into our various competitions in the comments section there.
Yeah.
But, it's just bragging rights. Macca, have you joined that yet?
Oh, I'm already in about 3 competitions.
Yeah, so, really for you, it's law of averages. If you enter enough competitions, you might just actually jag one.
I have to jag a couple of them, but this is a bit of quality, these guys here that have entered into this one.
Oh, yeah, no slouches.
It's all the big players.
Yeah.
And fair.
I don't profess to be good at fantasy.
I'm actually conceding, Phoenix. They might be just a bit too good for me.
Well, mate, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Walk the walk, and every other cliche I can think of. But look,
I've done that in the competitions I've gone in. I've had to pay $100 a time, but I reckon I can beat those guys.
But listen,
don't think, just do.
That's it, mate.
Join.
That's it. Look, it's the platform that we're using for our Dream Team and also our tipping competitions is SportsDeck. So you can go to sportsdeck.com and you hook into the AFL section of that website, make yourself an account. The interface isn't that different from any other fantasy league. I'll drop the league number in our chat as well, but it's basically CrowCast. If you search CrowCast, you'll find it. As I said, we've got 14 out of 18 at the moment, so there's room for 4 more. We'll probably scratch together a prize, I reckon. We'll find something from somewhere, I would have thought. But who would be, Donkey, I went through mine today and there were a couple that stood out to me. Who would be the one that stands out to you most as a bit of a smoky, a bit of a cheapie?
In terms of players or managers?
No, players.
Look, I think there's a lot of talent out there, and there's a lot of good picks. But I'll just bring up my side just so that I remember everybody.
Everyone's got young Bailey Fritsch from Melbourne, who's done very well in the pre-season, and he's basement price 147.5. Everyone seems to have him in.
Yeah, look, in terms of the rookies, I think Bailey's there. Tom Dode is definitely one. If you don't have him down back, then you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, a bit silly.
And
Brayshaw from Fremantle's another one.
I'll give another couple. Holman from the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Tim Kelly from the Cats. So, I don't think you're going to go wrong with most of those guys. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting season because there is a fair bit of new talent coming through. Is that for you, Donkey, or for your wife?
That's not my introductions this time. That's somebody else.
Oh dear! All right, so that's Dream Team. Hook into it if you do have an interest and you haven't joined enough fantasy leagues. Also on the same platform, sportsec.com, we have our tipping comp, and I got to say, listeners, a little bit disappointing at this stage. Wouldn't you agree, Donkey, on this one? We've only got 10 people in here. We need to smash this one out.
And people that aren't on it, they should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, I would have thought.
I'm not on it, but I might
that's my point.
Yeah, I know.
I reckon I'm the only one on this bloody panel that's actually on here. Pete, are you on the tipping comp?
No, mate, I've got a bit of work to do there. I've got a couple of days yet up my sleeve, and I'll be on there.
I actually reckon it's going to be mandatory. Macca, are you listening? It's going to be mandatory for podcasters to be in this tipping comp.
I'll get on the tipping, mate, but I'm not doing the fantasy football. It's just not my go. So
see what you've done, Phoenix. No, you've already answered.
I certainly will be doing the tipping, though.
Yeah, I actually and got to say hello to American Crow on chat. Good to see you, mate. We'll probably have you on during the season. For those who don't know, American Crow's a Crow supporter in the US of A in Cleveland, and obviously can't support the Browns, so he's supporting a team in a decent sport that's actually successful. So good to see you, AC, and probably wouldn't mind seeing you in one of these competitions just to show a few people up. Because I'd have to say, Macca, if you finish below American Crow in tipping or fantasy league, you may as well stop following the sport.
I think you're right. Just on the fantasy. I just brought my team up. Just a couple of really good ones to put in. You must put Murray in the back lines. That's Murray from Collingwood. That boy he burnt in the pre-season comp,
right?
And he's a cheapie. He's the base one. And also Dom Barry from Port Adelaide's a good chance to be selected as well. If he gets selected, you should have him in. And although
come on, Mac, you can't give them all up.
With that amount of insight, Macca, you really need to be on here because I haven't got either of those two blokes.
Yeah. You got to have those.
Well, I don't. As simple as that, I don't.
And for those of you listening at home, Jared Waite was also looking for a cracker of a season as well.
Jared Waite? Don't be stupid.
That's the donkey part of the Magoo.
That's ridiculous.
Maybe giving him a bit of a bum steer here, Phoenix. Like, not going to win. Like, come on.
How's that all right? You're banned from fantasy footy talk. Piss off. We're not having any rigged bloody commentary out of here.
Yeah, I was just going to say the lad from Rayner, Rayner from Brisbane.
Yeah, I've got him in as well, Cameron Rayner.
Yep.
And just on that, to be serious for a second, when you're picking your rookies, you're going to think about whether you're getting the cheapest possible rookie you're going to get that's going to play.
Yeah.
With someone like a Cam Rayner and even Brayshaw, they cost that little bit extra, but is their production necessarily going to be a lot more than someone you're only paying 70 or 80 grand less? Because the aim of the game is to make as much money as you can so that you can turn those blokes into other actual promos. So there's no point in picking a bloke that's going to cost you an extra 70 grand, that's going to average the same amount, not make as much money, and then not be able to turn that into someone bigger and better down the line. So
sage advice. Sage advice, Donkey.
Yes, and last bit of advice I'll give away is when you're doing your rucks, only pick the very basic guys at the very basic price.
No, I disagree with that.
No, but you do not waste money on the bench on the rucks.
Not on the bench, no. Not on the bench.
No, I'm talking about only on the bench.
Yeah.
So don't bother about whether they're going to play or not, just because we don't know whether any of those are going to play.
Yeah,
so just the very only just put base cost people on the bench.
Yeah. Don't waste your cash. Cash is king.
I just realised I got 3 Brayshaws in my bloody team: Angus, Hamish, and Andrew. I'm going to have to look at that.
Yeah, one of them won't play, though.
Yeah, no, Hamish won't play.
No,
that's all right. Anyway, Pete, right. That's competitions. We also have... hang on a minute.
No, one more. No, we got a third competition.
We got a what?
A third competition is there.
No, I'm just going to mention that we also are bringing across Scorpus's Game of Crows to the Tuesday Night Live show. But it is a bit of an institution, so it's going to get its own segment just before the show's end, so keep watching for that, and you'll have the criteria for round one for Game of Crows.
Perfect. All right, speaking of round one.
No, not yet. Pete.
Are you serious?
Matt,
are you just taking the piss now? Or?
No, I've actually got the order that was put in.
Well, I'm looking at the order here, and the next order is round one.
What does it say underneath?
Preview round one.
Yeah, no, what does it say in the next chat bubble? We better squeeze Macca's.
How about I'll just butt out. That's it.
Hang on a minute. After this one, then you're on cue. But first we got Macca's sweets and smacks.
Where the hell does that say?
That's what I am, and I really don't care who knows it. I don't vote politicians are a joke.
Grumpy old man time. Go for it, Macca.
Well, I've got some sweets as well as some slaps. Look, my biggest sweet for the week is obviously going to be for our selectors for having the balls to pick young Fogarty in round one instead of playing safe with an Otten or a Harry Deer, which they easily could have. And so big sweet to the selectors there. For slaps, well, Brad Crouch's body, I've mentioned that. By God, I could give that a good kick. It's just keeps breaking down and breaking down.
It's not his fault.
No,
he was going right till Phoenix jinxed him.
Yeah, that's true. That is really true.
Maybe I should be slapping Phoenix here.
Yeah.
Well,
you should slap me for the disaster that was the CrowCast pre-season, really.
Yep, and and a good hefty slap that professional wider Luke Beveridge, calling the media a bloody liar, and then they stand up and they talk back because they reckon they're talking fact. And Luke Beveridge he's an absolute joke. So a big clout round the ears to Luke Beveridge.
Yeah, and we will be having our cockwomble on Sunday night. That's where Nikki's cockwomble is going to be moving to, and I am dead sure that Luke Beveridge will be well and truly in her sights.
Yeah, and my last comment on this, to anybody listening at the moment who wants to, how about let us know your sweets and slaps, and as the weeks go by, there'll be a sweet and a slap every week, and I'll be very interested in yours as well. Thank you.
Yeah, anyone wants to comment on Macca's Sweets and Smacks or provide suggestions, you can tweet us at AFL CrowCast, and or you can drop a note on our Facebook page at AFL CrowCast on Facebook, or you'll be able to do something on our website as well at www.aflcrowcast.com. Continue. Pete, what should we do now?
I've got no idea. You tell me.
Let's do the preview. And I picked that song because I reckon that's what we're going to have to do on round one against Essendon at Etihad. We're going to have to run our freaking guts out.
Yes, and I think we might be chasing Arsenal too if going by the pre-season form of Essendon. They're certainly playing good footy.
Didn't they get flogged the first game by about 100 points?
What do you reckon, Pete?
I mean, Essendon always concern me with that. They're generally fast starters.
Yeah.
Over the last few seasons, particularly at Etihad, they just seem to. I don't know what it is about that side. They just seem to have plenty of run on their legs. At the start of the first sort of half a dozen rounds, just over the years. I don't know. I don't have a great deal of confidence heading into this game. I just don't. I feel like we're a bit underdone, and my expectations are fairly low. I'm happy to see the debutants, of course. Excuse me, but just think that we looked really, really slow across the ground at Alberton. I thought that, as I mentioned the other week, that we were cut up across their half-back line or our half-forward line. I just can't see us going with the pace of Essendon at this early stage. I don't think it would be any great concern. So I've decided that I'm just going to drive up to York Peninsula on Friday evening. I won't see the game. I'll probably listen to it on the radio, but I just I don't know. Maybe it just plays to the narrative that to me it's all about where we end up in September, and it's a little bit hard to get too motivated. I just think that we'll struggle on Friday night, to be honest.
Come on, mate. You got to fire up.
Yeah, if you look at the pre-season form, in both games, what I'm really struggling with, the fact is that in the first half of each game, we looked like a football side, and in the second half of each game, we looked like an absolute rabble and looked like we couldn't play football at all. In fact, that second half against Port Adelaide, and I know we didn't have our best players out there, etc., but we weren't competitive, not competitive at all. That really worried me, and I don't know whether we do lack fitness or whether we just didn't give a shit about the game or whatever. I'm a little bit in the dark of where we're actually at the moment, and I'm not sure that anybody else knows either.
I think that's a good point, Macca. I think you're absolutely spot on. I think it's pretty hard to get a read on exactly where we are, what we're doing, because we seem to have played a couple of games in two halves. We've showed some pretty good signs and some really, really rotten signs. And I just feel that as Crow supporters, I mean, if you look back over the last, 3 or 4 years, we've ended our seasons with such diabolical losses. It's actually not just the grand final last year. It's, you can trot back through to, the Sydney semi-final at the SCG.
Correct.
You can trot back to, games against Hawthorn. You can, that horrible game against West Coast when we need to win it to make the 4. There were just some horrible ways that we ended the season, and they were games where we just didn't show up, not completely and utterly uncompetitive games. And so, I don't know, it's very hard to get a read on the Crows, I think, and it's been very difficult to get a read on this pre-season.
I'm having a feeling, Donkey, that you and I and perhaps Macca to a lesser degree are going to have to bring Pete up this season. He's very flat, very flat.
Very flat, mate, very flat. I don't know. I just... I saw things, you see things in the pre-season games and you just look and you think, you know what, I have seen that before.
Yeah,
the second half against Port Adelaide was not any, it wasn't like you sat there. If you'd watched the Crows in the last 3 or 4 years and you watched that second half against Port, it's not like you sat there and thought, oh, geez, where did that come from?
Yeah.
You know exactly where it's come from. It comes from this playing group.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's player turnover is the only way that's going to fix it, because we've got players that bring the same thing every week, sometimes it largely depends on how the opposition plays. Whether Rory Atkins is a classic. If he's allowed to get his own ball and get on the outside, he'll cut you up. But if you put a bit of body on him, then he goes to pieces. So those blokes tend to not change. Oh, don't even Macca. Come on. Not this early in the season. Don't bring that name up, for God's sake.
We had to wind you up, get you going.
Who did you say?
Jenkins.
Oh my goodness!
Look,
I mean,
he after Robert Walls had a couple of things to say on the weekend, and Robert Walls can be a bit hit and miss. But I did agree with him regarding his comments on Jenkins and also Tex. Jenkins in particular. Josh Jenkins did not fire a shot in the grand final, and really wasn't overly influential throughout the entire final series. If he wants to earn his keep, and if he wants to stay on the Crows list, he needs to impose himself. And I don't know whether he's got it in him. Well, I think I'm on record as saying I don't think he has.
I reckon there was only one game last year where I sat there and thought he's actually giving it a red-hot crack, and I think he got 10 tackles for the game.
I know the game you're talking. Yep. I don't know. I couldn't tell you which one it was, but there was one where he actually looked like he was trying.
Yeah. So 1 out of 25. Not what you want to be shooting for with that bloke at his pay grade. Look, Pete, I hear what you're saying about finding it harder to get going, and we're only really going to find confirmation on whether we've turned the corner once we hold the cup up, basically, because that's the last hurdle we haven't got over. But I'm pumping myself up and just making that mental switch to really enjoy this season. Like, we've played really good football over the last 3 or 4 years. We've built every year. We've got a little bit better every year. We're coming out of a grand final, and I think we're going to have another good year with another lot of wins. So it's a lot better than those years when we don't have very many wins at all. And I think there's got to be a part where you just enjoy this bit of the footy and just have a bit of faith and go, these boys are going to get it done. Jenkins is going to find his heart. We're going to take him down the yellow brick road. and we're going to bring it home. Like, it's going to happen.
Well, Doggy didn't find it in the trial games. I mean, Jesus, he was.
No, look, he didn't, but the season's, you know, we've got 5 or 6 months to go to get all these things locked away. I'm probably not as worried about what we did in those second halves as some of you other guys are. I've got a little bit of concern that it might be fitness and it isn't just rotations. I'm pretty sure that it is just rotations and us putting the queue in the rack. But we'll find out about 10 minutes into the third quarter on Friday night, I think, if we've put up a good showing in the first half and we've grinded in third gear by halfway through the third, then I think we might be a bit of a strife for a couple of weeks until we've got everyone's fitness up. But
look, I agree with you, Donkey, and I think Etihad against Essendon is probably the worst case scenario for a team coming off a grand final. There's no doubt in my mind that we're underdone. Historically, grand final teams are underdone for the first couple of rounds. We didn't look like we were travelling on top of the ground in the second half against Port. We haven't done anything special. I'm not particularly worried about it. But in this, if we're talking about this particular match versus a fast-running team on a fast deck, everyone's... new season. Everyone's on top of their game in a mental sense. I think we'll get on off our feet.
Yeah, I tend to agree, mate. I also, it's what's going to be. I mean, I'm not going to try and presuppose this, but it's what's going to be interesting is just to see the general kind of attitude of the players and whether they're carrying anything from last year and. Generally, how they respond, whether it does take a few weeks to really get their motor running, it may well be the case. And I kind of think that if we do get rolled on Friday night, it doesn't really prove anything either way. It's going to be it's a long season, and I don't think I certainly wouldn't be slashing the wrists if we lose on Friday night. I think we probably will, and I think that it'll just be we won't really be able to assess where we're at until probably round 4 or 5.
I just brought up what the bookies have got it, and they've got Adelaide $1.80 and Essendon $2, and just the way I'm feeling about the game though at the moment, Essendon might be a good $2 bet there.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Macca.
I can't tip us. Not what I've seen in the pre-season, and I know it's only the pre-season, but Essendon definitely have got a reasonably good side. I thought they weren't a bad side last year. They've actually improved that side, and I think that Phoenix's point is that when you play as far as the grand finals, you do start your pre-season training later than everybody else, so you're never quite at the same level in the first 2 or 3 games. And I'm tipping Essendon.
With just on selection, anybody see any kind of any other surprises other than the fact that obviously we've nominated Fogarty and Duday for their debut, and I thought that was fantastic news. It's great to see those two players. In particular for me, Tom Duday, very, very happy to see him get a go. And I thought that we really needed to make that selection because he was out of the blue pick 2 years ago, and understand that he took some time to develop. But I figure with 2 years under his belt plus a really solid pre-season this year, if we didn't pick him round 1 this year, we were never going to pick him. So I think they had to play him, and good luck to him. Obviously on Friday night, I think he was terrific last year in the SNFL and really deserves his spot. So I hope that works out for him. It doesn't seem to me like Lockie Murphy will play, but I think the team, other than that, pretty much picks itself.
So I think the only one spot maybe up for grabs a little bit is Hampton or Cam Ellis-Yong.
Yeah, no, good point. Good point, Macca. Those two could be vying for one position.
Do we need another insider? I think we'll go with Hampton, who can play inside or outside and probably offers a bit of versatility off half-back where we may struggle without Brodie Smith.
Yeah, I personally, my selection is Hampton, but I don't pick the team, so we'll see.
I think Pike likes Kirtley,
yeah,
and I base that on the fact that he played him He picked him off pre-season last year. He played him for the first 8 rounds, and it was only that he was injured that he'd lose his spot.
Yeah, correct.
He came back and after one run in the SNFL, his second run, he absolutely caned it. And he looks to me to be set for a round 1 spot. I think Pike likes him in the side. I think he likes what he brings. And I think you're right, Fiend. I think that they'll pick Hampton.
Had a very good AFLX tournament as well.
Had a what?
That's the most important thing.
I wouldn't have rated.
I know you.
Are you like our what is it, devil's advocate? First you go on about bloody Jared Waite and fantasy footy, and now you're talking AFLX.
Oh, well, you guys all say the same thing. There's no point in having 4 parrots.
I don't know that necessarily. I was just going to say that I don't know that necessarily Hampton. I don't think it necessarily rules Ellis Yeoman out. They may still play Ellis Yeoman potentially.
Who else would come out?
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
You don't think they'll play 2?
No, because there's 6. There's got to be there's 6 naturally missing from the grand final side, and I think the other spots just fill up naturally with the 2 young boys.
Fogarty takes Walker. Doty takes Lever. You could argue that Hampton takes Knight.
You'll have to say yes.
Gibbs comes in for Gibbs comes in for Brad Crouch, I guess, in terms of last year's 22.
Yeah.
What's going on with Malera? Is he?
So then, hang on. Sorry, mate, but then Hugh Greenwood comes out as well, so he comes in for him. So there's where Ellis Yeoman might get in.
Possibly.
Sorry, what was that about Greenwood?
Well, Hugh Greenwood played in the grand final. I'm sure he won't play.
Greenwood?
Yeah.
He'll play.
Do you think he will?
Certainty. With Brad Crouch out, he's a certainty.
How many minutes did he play JLT? Didn't play the first game, did he?
No, but I think...
Is he fit? Is he ready to go?
I don't
know. I'm just asking. I don't know.
I think he is.
Well, he hasn't played much, Macca. Pete's right there. He didn't get a lot of time.
I'm not arguing about that, but there's been no mention of him in dispatches as being unavailable or not fit for selection. I think he is.
Did he even play against Port?
I can't.
Sorry, we should know that, but if he did, he played such a minor role that it certainly hasn't.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
I got a feeling in the second half, our setups, I think he was in the centre most of them.
Oh, he was. He was, correct. That's right. He definitely played against Port. But I thought that with Brad Crouch out, I think somebody's got to play that role.
Well,
now that's going to be either Greenwood, and it will be Greenwood.
Well, it's probably. I mean, Cam Ellis-Yeoman's had far more game time through pre-season than Greenwood. Greenwood had some off-season surgery too, as Vardy Magic points out in the chat. I don't think it's as cut and dried as you'd think it is, Macca.
Well, I'm wrong many times, so I'll be used to that.
Yeah, we're used to it.
Yeah, but then
I thought Cam had a pretty good pre-season, to be honest. I thought he had 2 pretty good JLT games.
Yeah. Well, and a brilliant AFLX, Donkey.
That was fantastic. Let the park up.
He was everywhere in that.
Jesus.
Everyone
Look, I don't think our problem's going to be in the midfield. I think our problem's going to be in transition. We've got no Walker, so we're lacking lead up. They'll sit on Tommy Lynch, and if they end up playing Jenkins high, I don't think he offers as much as Walker does high, and it leaves us exposed deep anyway. So I think where we're going to get hurt is our transition off halfback. I think we're going to be easily foiled coming into forward 50. I think our midfield's good enough to match, but I don't think we're going to kick enough goals.
Now, agreeing with just refreshing my mind and also cheating by looking it up. Greenwood didn't play in the first game of the JLT, whatever that bloody series was called, and he played 67% of the game time in the second game. And I remember now he was held back for the second game because he was recovering from something or other. But
yeah, he had some surgery.
Yeah, yep. I think Greenwood will be there. I think Fogg's going to be our answer up forward in round 1. He's going to kick 5 in debut.
Oh, Donkey, if you're relying on a rook to bloody kick your winning score, there's a problem.
Yeah, but I just think that I just don't think we've seen a player like Darcy come out before for a long time. I think he's got a very old soul. He's got a very old body, and people aren't going to know how to match up on him straight away. So they're going to be locking down on JJ and Govan, and he's going to scoot through the middle, I think. And at least he crashes the pack. So if he doesn't take the mark, it's going to drop to Eddie's hands, and he's going to put him through. So I'm not as concerned about this as you guys. I'm probably a bit more worried about the middle than you guys with us. If with Brad Crouch out, I think he's pretty silky. But
Brad Crouch hasn't been silky for 4 seasons.
Oh, probably.
I don't think the Bombers bat very deep in the midfield. That's probably why I'm not too concerned. I think, their first rotation's pretty solid, but after that they fall away a bit. The young lad's going to be interesting to see whether he plays through the middle. What's his name? McPhee? Not McPhee, whatever his name is. The lad that... But yeah, apart from that...
I tend to agree with you, Finn. I reckon a lot falls on the shoulders of Mitch McGovern, and I think he is, into his, third senior season?
Yeah.
I reckon a lot falls on his shoulders now. I think that, he really needs to own the forward line. I have no faith at all in Jenkins. He'll probably just go missing as he usually does. As you say, lynch up the ground, and they'll probably sit on him. I just reckon, and you don't know what Fogarty's going to bring. He looks very talented, and I absolutely agree that he looks a special player. But whether he brings that in in his first match, who knows? But Mitch McGovern for me is the one, and Eddie. Mitch McGovern and Eddie are the two that, if we are going to kick a winning score, you'd want, I reckon, 7 or 8 goals at least out of those 2 players and some help from the midfield.
Yeah, just talking about the midfield, the Essendon's midfield isn't all that bad, though. They've got Zaha Harakis, they've got Merritt, Heppel, and they've got the Devon Smith from GWS. I think young Parrish is out injured.
I think he trained. He trained today.
He did he?
Yep.
And Goddard as well. So, we're not talking about an idiot midfield. So.
No. But that's what I said, Macca. I think their first rotation is solid. I just don't think. I don't think they bat as deep as what we do.
Maybe not, but I'd say their first one's. I'd say almost brilliant in some ways.
No, brilliant. Where's it brilliant?
Well, Merritt is a class individual.
He's Matt Crouch. He gets the ball.
He's one of the best in the competition. And Zaha Harakis, he returned to form last year. I think they did look. I'm not saying we won't beat them in the midfield. I'm just saying we can't underestimate them. That's all.
Big game too for Daniel Taylor. I felt like he was disappointing last year. Only just got through the season, in my view.
Must have been playing.
It didn't look good.
No.
Didn't look good.
No, it looked like an old man at times, and he's going to have his work cut out on Friday night. And during the season, I think he's a one-trick pony last year, and in danger of being overtaken. I reckon. I really do.
But who would take his place?
Well, we've got 2 young lads. We've got Hardigan, obviously, and we've got Alex Keith coming up through there, and he could quite easily play Taylor's position.
I think Keith in the long run will be a good player, yeah.
I just think, Taylor's interesting. He had, it might have been 2 seasons back, he had an All-Australian year.
Yep.
And he started to, I think, I don't know how anyone else feels about DT, but I've always felt that we're kind of just waiting for him to expand his role a little bit. Obviously, always appreciative that he's there to take, the number 1 forward and, does a great job one-on-one and really, really good defensively and reliable and all those good things. But I reckon we've probably all just thought that the little bit missing from his makeup is, that ability to run off and just be a little bit more creative than what he is. And I thought that he was getting there 2 years ago.
Yes.
Just starting to take more risks, and he was starting to use the ball a bit more, and he was starting to kick the ball a bit more. And then last year was just a huge step back, in my view, from that potential. Now, that could have been injury related, I'm not sure.
I think that's a perfect summation, Pete. I think Daniel did go backwards last year. Whether it's part of the team structure, I'm not sure, because we did have a lot of creative types going through that from that back half, but it didn't offer much really. I mean, he was solid, had got towed up a couple of times and just didn't look like he was going to offer anything going the other way. So I'll just interrupt this conversation just to play another little jingle. Now, not only did I play that because Kiss were the first concert I saw way back in 1980 at Adelaide Oval, Macca. You would have been, about 45 then? But
No, I was not.
We're also...
I actually wasn't born, thanks.
You weren't born in 1980?
No. I hated Kiss.
Here's a little tidbit of information for anyone who barracks for Sturt. Kiss were the first concert that I went to. I wasn't allowed to go by my mother, God love her, but my neighbour across the road was taking his son, and as a consequence of my neighbour's stature, I was allowed to go with him. Now, my neighbour was John Murphy, who played for Sturt back in the 70s, and his son was Chris Murphy, who played lead guitar for Exploding White Mice for quite some years. He and I started playing guitar together back when I was 10. He kept going and I didn't. So there you go. But, so Kiss was my first concert with a stalwart off halfback. But what I played it for really is to encourage people to get involved in the conversation. We don't have any call-in this week, but we do have the chat going on Spreaker. We also have the chat going on Discord, and we have Shuey in there at the moment on his lonesome. He's a newcomer to the CrowCast, brought in by Donkey, I reckon. Is that right, Donkey? One of your mates?
Yeah, Shuey's on there. He's asking for some comments on Dream Team. And,
he's a Northern Territory boy. When I saw him come in, I actually thought it was Ryan Schoenmakers from Hawthorn looking for a bit of inside goss, but no. But what I'm saying is...
He kicks off the left like him.
Oh, there you go. What I'm saying is get involved in the chat, either on the Spreaker chat or on the Discord chat. Or you can hashtag CCTNL on Twitter to get your tweet read out. Joel asked earlier about Game of Crows, and I hope he's listening because, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be covering that later. Anyway, back to the preview, guys.
Look, just on Daniel Talia, and this is something I remember happening during the season. People are going to sort of back me up or tell me I'm an idiot, but was there a bit of tension between him and Lever a few times on who was the general in the back? I just think it was the Carlton game where they sort of had they lost it at each other sort of visibly on the field, and I wonder if that was sort of contributing to, Charles's way of playing and sort of demeanour. Could be nothing, but could be something.
If it did, Donkey, then it proves Talia isn't a leader, and I don't think that's the case, judging by what we've heard from Daniel at various points during his career. I don't think that would have a negative impact on... I think that confrontation was probably more a reflection of Talia's form at the time.
Yeah, no, Lever's very natural in that area. I noticed in his very first game, he instead of being overawed by it, he was barking orders to the rest of the backmen. So... I'm sure what you said, it did take place, but I think that would have been something that took place in a lot of games.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Friday night on both Talia and Hardigan. They've got obviously Danaher and Hooker up there, and so they've got plenty of big bodies up there, so their work's going to be cut out. And if that ball, if they are, as Fiend says, if they are hurting us on transition and cutting us up in the same way that Port did, and that one had been lost on Essendon coaches, the way that Port played us last weekend or the weekend before, then they will certainly have their work cut out with that ball coming in quickly with talented forwards. Yeah,
we just seem to. If you mentioned previously about the defeat by Sydney, and it was very when we played in that final against Sydney. And it was very reminiscent of what Port Adelaide did, just charge straight at us and we just fall apart. We don't seem to be able to have a game to prevent it.
Well, we got cut up by, 2 weeks ago, Macca, we got cut up by pace. We got cut up by kids like Riley Bonner, And who was the other? Who was the other guy? There was some guy that I'd never heard of for Port.
Jack Watts.
Jack Watts. He just absolutely sliced us up across half back.
You're going to get
absolutely
benched,
sliced and diced us.
Oh yeah. No, I don't know who you're talking about.
Young lad who I'd never seen him play for Port before, but anyway. So that I think those challenges are certainly ahead of us on Friday night.
Is anyone thinking that Magoo needs a bloody week off after his performance tonight? He's trolled us on fantasy. He's come up with some absolute rubbish at times, and I don't know whether he adds anything. Do you?
Well, I think we should put it out to the listeners. I think I've got the numbers here.
I don't know. I know you're saying about the rubbish, but that's really one of his better ones, isn't it?
Well, maybe that's what he brings.
Maybe a good time to throw out a game of Crows.
Before we do that, what do you reckon? Do we want to chuck some tips in before we go to Game of Crows, and then we'll wind it up?
Yeah, and
give him my tip, mate.
I meant for the other games. So we got we got Richmond and Carlton on Thursday night. What do we reckon about that, Donkey?
I think the Tigers get that in a canter.
Macca?
Tigers.
Yeah, Richmond.
Yeah. And we've put in our... anyone going for the Crows on Friday night?
Yeah, Crows, 30 points.
30 points, Donkey. That's exactly what... That illustrates exactly what I'm talking about, mate.
Yeah, same margin. We'll get beat by that.
Bombers for me.
Bombers for me too, I reckon, first up. The Saints versus the Lions at Etihad on Saturday.
Nil or draw?
Saints.
Yeah, I reckon the Lions. Port Fremantle at... Oh, sorry, Donkey, I forgot you were there. Port Fremantle at Adelaide Oval, Saturday afternoon twilight.
Port.
Yeah, Port Adelaide. It was Howard who was the lad that carved us up in the back line.
Yeah.
Yeah, Port.
Port too, but I reckon Nat 5 for the Brownlow just quietly.
Yeah. I think
Dougal Howard.
You have to play more than one game.
It wasn't Dougal Howard. It was another player.
Howard dominated.
No, well, I'm talking about one of the. It was a pacey player off half back.
I can't think of it either.
That was right.
It was a young Indigenous. It was an Indigenous lad.
Don Barry.
Don Barry.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, 5 for Brownlow. Port to win that game though. Suns versus the Kangaroos, led by a rampaging Jared Waite at on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, I should say.
Suns.
I think the Suns. Yeah.
Donkey. Surely it's North Melbourne.
I think North Melbourne will be ahead until about the last 2 minutes and then choke another close one because that's what they like doing best.
Wait, will kick one out in the full.
Yeah.
Hawthorn, I reckon Suns too. Hawthorn Collingwood at the G on Saturday night. Hard to get a read on either of these.
Yeah, they're no.
Pies for me.
I'll go Hawthorn.
Yeah, I'm going the Hawks. I just don't think. I think the Pies will capitulate and do a big steaming pile of rubbish this year.
I know it's Jonathan Brown, but stinging comments from Brown after watching Collingwood train, calling them lethargic. That's not a good sign.
I don't think he can coach.
Jonathan Brown. That's why he's a commentator.
No, Buckley.
I don't reckon. You know what? I reckon he loses players very quickly because I reckon he polarises the situation. You're either with him or you're out, and I reckon that's what happens with that squad every year.
Yep, I think you're right.
Sunday we got the Giants versus the Bulldogs. That won't be a bad game at Uni NSW.
Giants for me.
Giants.
Yeah. Giants,
yep. Melbourne and the Cats, another good one at the MCG. First opportunity to see the terrible trio in action. I reckon the Cats will absolutely smack them.
Is Dangerfield playing? Do we know?
No.
I heard he was.
Yeah. It looks like everything's pointing towards him playing.
I might go to Cats, I think.
If Dangerfield plays, I'll go Cats.
Well, you can't... No, Macca... There's no caveats on tipping. Cats or Melbourne?
I'll go
This is being recorded. If you put different tips in later, I'm calling you out. And the last one at 4:20 on a Sunday. West Coast versus the Swans at West Coast. At West
Swannies. Yep.
Swans
still
by,
going Swannies.
Swans by heaps.
I'm pretty sure Josh Kennedy's not playing. I'm not sure how they'll kick their goals. I'll go for the Swannies.
West Coast will be in the bottom 4 this year.
Oh, that's massive.
They will be.
I think Macca's got this right. I think the Wet Toast are going to be in a lot of trouble.
I reckon West Coast will get over the line. It's their debut at what is it called over there? Optus Fruit Bowl or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Main Stadium.
Does anyone like that stadium? Does anyone like the look of it from the inside?
No. Very ordinary. I mean, it's got all the bells and whistles, but there's nothing that says, "Gee, this is outstanding."
Yeah.
You know what? It's a McMansionville stadium. Like Adelaide Oval's got the character and it's a beautiful place to walk around. MCG's got the history. The Gabba's got the coloured seats. That looks like expansion. You know, endless suburbs of concrete and steel. Like that's just got no soul. A bit like West Australia.
Yeah.
No, I think that when looking at the one in Perth just goes to show how right the guys got it here in Adelaide. I was actually against retaining the trees and against retaining the old scoreboard, but when you actually go there week after week, it's a beautiful ground to go to, and you think yourself, there can't be anything better than sitting here in this ground, and it's a magic place to go to.
If they'd have built that here, Macca, they would have been marching on Parliament House if they'd have built Western Australia Stadium here. It's a disgrace, I reckon. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's pretty poor, isn't it?
Yeah. Just looking at the chat, because we did ask people to chat and then we totally ignored what they had to say. Yeah, we want you to chat, but we don't give a shit what you're actually talking about. Vardy,
we just want to know you're listening.
Yeah, that's right. Is anyone out there? Vardy asks if Buckley will make it to round 10. I reckon that's a pretty good question. I don't reckon he will.
I was going to make the comment there.
No, Collingwood will make the 8 this year.
Oh, not a chance. Not a chance.
No, they will. They will.
Pete, I bet you a considerable amount of beer that Collingwood won't make the 8.
I reckon they'll make the 8.
Come on, Pete. The trolling thing's my thing. Let's go.
No, there you go. I'm putting it out there.
Oh, that's recorded too. Shit.
I didn't know you drank during the week.
Okay. I'm putting that out there.
So, in other words, you reckon Buckley will stay, Pete? What about you, Macca?
I think they'll probably, out of courtesy, let him stay till the end of the year, but then he'll be
courtesy.
gone.
I reckon courtesy's run out. What do you reckon, Donkey?
I'm with. I wouldn't necessarily say courtesy. I would say more of an unhealthy relationship with the president. He'll get to stay till the end of the year.
Yeah, well, that's possible. But I think the president's on the nose too, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's a double coup. Maybe they both get taken out mid-year. But I doubt that.
Yeah, Shuey on Discord. Thanks for joining us on Discord too, Shuey. Hopefully you'll start a trend. But anyway, he reckons Buckley will last. I reckon he's gone. I don't reckon he can coach. I'm like you, Macca. I don't think he can coach. Anyway, no.
Yeah, but he couldn't coach last year, and he couldn't coach the year before that either. He's like that.
5 years he can't coach.
Yeah, I think the proof is on the table, don't you? But anyway, if he makes the 8, we're all stupid except for Pete. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's hook into Game of Crows, shall we?
Very dramatic music for this show.
You've never watched Game of Thrones, Macca?
No, I don't. I've made a point of not watching it because I get addicted to shows.
Come on, mate. You get addicted to that one.
It's worth it.
Yeah, definitely worth it. Obviously, for those of you who have listened to the Thursday night show in the past, you will understand what this is. But we understand there might be one or two outliers that haven't listened to the Thursday night show before. So briefly... Sorry, you're out. I'm going to ban you.
I'll play basketball.
I'd like to see footage. Yeah, Game of Crows is basically a weekly show where we pull out one particular stat and we ask people to select which Crows player will be the leading player in that particular stat. So it can be something as simple as kicks, or it could be something as intangible as, I don't know, marks inside 50 or centre clearances or something like that. So every week we keep a tally, and in tradition, Scorpus used to give away a carton of beer, so we'll uphold that. We'll give away a carton of Cooper's Pale or similar to the person who wins at the end of the year. So it could be our only legitimate competition after all that. So this week I'm going to make the choice, something very simple to start off. I'm going to say who's going to get the most marks for the Crows. What do you reckon, Pete? Who's going to take the most marks for us?
The most marks for us, I am going to go for Tom Lynch.
Tom Lynch? Good choice. Macca?
Are we allowed to go the same player?
Yeah, no, you can go the same player if you like. We keep a scoreboard on this one, so make it count.
I'll go Matty Crouch.
Matty Crouch? Marks, Matty Crouch. I didn't say handballs.
Makes little leads all over the place.
Righto. Donkey?
Yeah, I might go the Lion, Rory Sloane.
Rory Sloane. Well, okay.
Same theory as Macca.
Yeah, okay. You're aligning yourself with Macca.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Just making sure. I'm going to go with...
I'm in trouble. That's a guy that's talking about weight.
Mate, he's in for a ripper of a year.
Oh, goodness me. Look, I'm going for Tommy Lynch as well. I reckon the lead-up boy, although there's a danger, Pete, that he may get sat on and become a little bit nullified. So that's
absolutely, that's always the danger.
It's probably the kicker. So for those of you who want to play along, this has always been a Twitter competition, so if you put your selection in Twitter at AFL CrowCast with the hashtag Game of Crows, I'll also accept entries on our Facebook page, just hashtag at Game of Crows. And for our Big Footy veterans, if you want to put your selection in the CrowCast thread on the Big Footy forums, you can do so as well.
What about Spreaker? You taking that? We've got Vardy and Jason.
No, they know better. They know what they're doing.
Are they just playing around?
I don't know what they're doing, but Twitter, Facebook, Big Footy, and at some stage it'll be our website as well, but I haven't got that up yet. So those three platforms is probably enough. And there will be a scoreboard, we will be keeping tally, and there will be a carton of beer on the end of it. So get your entries in. Most marks, round 1. What do you reckon, Pete? We done?
Sounds good, mate. You want to just see us out with some Facebook and Twitter stuff, and but otherwise I think that probably just wraps us up. We're a little bit over time, and that's fine.
Yeah, we didn't do too badly, actually.
We did pretty well, I think.
Yeah, 68.
There's a lot to squeeze in today.
Oh, shit. So, as I mentioned, Facebook at AFL CrowCast. Oh, sorry, AFL CrowCast. Twitter at AFL CrowCast. Our website, aflcrowcast.com. You can hook into us on demand at any of those on any of those platforms. We also have a YouTube channel. If you search CrowCast on YouTube, you'll see us. And that's it for me. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, mate. See everyone. See you next week.
Yeah, good night, all.